Welcome to SourceFed. I'm Joe Beretta.
I'm Elliot Morgan.
Yesterday, we covered the murder of U.S. Ambassador J. Christopher Stevens and 3 other Americans, which occurred at the U.S. Embassy in Libya during riots allegedly sparked by a really crappy anti-Islamic film made in the U.S. that depicts the Prophet Muhammad as a murderous womanizer. You can check out our video coverage here. And now the protesting has spilled over into other African and Middle Eastern countries, with riotous groups storming the gates of numerous U.S. embassies.
Demonstrations have sprung up outside of U.S. embassies in Cairo, Israel, Gaza, Libya, Egypt, Yemen, Sudan, Tunisia, Iran, Iraq, and Morocco. And now the U.S. is on high alert around the world. This is especially evident in the U.S.'s decision to deploy 2 destroyers and drones in response to all the violence and the numerous murders in Libya. President Obama stated, "We will not waver in our commitment to see that justice is done for this terrible act. And make no mistake, justice will be done."
And whenever Obama says something like this, I believe him. He can be scary.
He can.
Yeah.
And articulate.
Yeah. While some believe the violence was sparked by this ridiculous film, seriously, it's ridiculous and mind-boggling how stupid it truly is. Some officials believe the attacks were pre-planned and the film is being used as a distraction. Either way, rioting has just reached extremely high levels in Yemen as protesters have breached the walls of a U.S. embassy and set fire to a building. Looters were eventually turned back by armed forces and the violence continues. And 500 protesters chanting "Death to America" have descended upon the Swiss embassy in Iran, which is where the U.S. interests are handled when diplomats are absent.
So now we're at a point where it doesn't matter what started the violence because notoriously bad people are adding fuel to the fire and calling for the death of Westerners. One Muslim cleric by the name of Abdul Majid al-Zindani, who at one time was a mentor for Osama bin Laden, is calling for more protests and violence. And you know what? People are going to listen. The atmosphere is ripe for groups like Al-Qaeda to incite more and more unrest.
Yep, violence begets violence, and overreaction begets overreaction. The desecration of the Prophet Muhammad is an extremely serious offense in Islamic countries. And it doesn't matter if you agree with that sentiment or not, because they do. And we should be sensitive to their beliefs. And now, they're super offended. But just because they take it seriously, it doesn't mean that their reaction isn't super over the top. People that have no responsibility for that film are dying, and that's unacceptable. All we can hope for is that cooler heads prevail and that the violence will come to a swift and abrupt end.
The story is constantly developing, and as always, between SourceFed and the PDS, we will do our best in keeping you informed. This is SourceFed. I'm Elliot Morgan.
I'm Joe Beretta.